Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio at 11 p.m. We are here live from the Chantilly, Virginia studios at Kardec Radio, nourishing our souls together as we study another chapter of the book Evolution into Worlds by Luiz, the spirit author, and the mediums Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira, a book that is a masterpiece, a phenomenon in itself, and it has uh, 40 chapters, 20 chapters in part one, and 20 chapters in part two. We are already at the 12th chapter of part two. Can you believe it? Can't believe it. I confess, when we started it, I said, man, this is the most challenging project we've done at 11 p.m. And thanks to teamwork effort in two realms, we are almost there. We're not looking forward to ending the book. We're looking forward to enjoying this journey together, right? And by the way, today we begin with an extra dose of joy today, because today we have the news that Cardiac Radio can be listened now through Alexa app. You know, the app from the apparatus and app from Amazon. Yes. So if you have one at home, you just say, Alexa, play Cardiac Radio, and it starts playing right now.
Cardiac Radio from Pandora.
Oh, just a second, please. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, there is one here, and it wasn't exactly what it is, but Carlos just tested it downstairs and it's working live. So whatever you're listening now here, Cardiac Radio, as you're watching on Facebook or YouTube video, and in our website or our app, also at Alexa, anywhere, you just say it, play it, and that's it. Can you believe it? Right, Leia Severo? It's incredible. And hopefully soon in the Google app as well, you know, the new apparatus. So it's amazing how technology is bringing spiritism farther away to more and more people, making so easy. So today we were in our kitchen listening to Cardiac Radio while cooking. I know we can do this using our phone, but you no longer need a phone. If you have your home, you can have an Alexa play it for you all the time. Isn't that amazing? We're very happy with that opportunity and very thankful for this single opportunity of bringing it in many options to many people. You know, there's many ways people can listen to Cardiac Radio, and Cardiac Radio brings more than 70 programs by different hosts to people all around the world. So it's a blessing, right? So it is a blessing. And today we're studying chapter 12, part 2 of the book. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful chapter. It talks about sex differentiation. You know, as we said yesterday, Luiz wrote this book through Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira in 1958. And as amazing as it is, he's so faithful and so correct and aligned to the scientific terminology that it's surprising at times. And I'm going to share with you why. Exactly, Rihanna. It's a great Christmas gift. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's so true. And it's possible that we're going to have a raffle at Cardiac Radio. So we're going to launch the raffle online sometime tomorrow, maybe. And if you people want to acquire one of these Alexa apps, we're going to raffle. And the money is going to help Cardiac Radio's projects because we have several platforms and everything is volunteer based. So we can raffle this Alexa and people can enjoy listening to it in the leisure of their home. Okay, thank you, Brianna. All right, so back to business here. The loving business of enjoying the studies of Spiritism. Andre Luiz is so up to date with the terminology. It's fascinating. Today we're going to talk about sex differentiation. And you may be asking, what is it? So let's go to the slides and see what Andre Luiz is telling us about in that regard. So let us see. Sex Differentiation, Chapter 12, Part 2 of the book Evolution into Worlds. So when we talk about sex, before I begin, I want to show something to you. Because there is a difference, scientifically speaking, when you say sex and gender. People often are confused. They don't want to say sex because it reminds them about the actual act of sex, but that's not what we mean here. We're talking about men and women. So what is the difference? So this is a good diagram that summarizes it all. So sex refers to the biological and physiological differences between men and women. It has two main categories, male and female. Sex remains the same regardless of time and culture. Sex is created by the reproduction needs, which is biological features. So sex is something we don't discuss. Oh, this is a boy or a girl. That you cannot change because it depends on the biology. Now, gender refers to the social and cultural differences between men and women. Gender has two main categories, masculine and feminine. Gender roles, expectations may differ across time and culture. Gender distinctions are created by social norms. So that's why in this chapter, Andre Luiz, up to date with the latest findings and agreements in society, even the World Health Organization agrees to this differentiation, sex versus gender. He titles this chapter Sex Differentiation. What is he talking about? When in our evolution we appeared, you know, in this sex differentiation, male and female. When was it? You want to know the answer, right? Let's see. So when we talk about differentiation of sex, we're talking about something that is biological. As we can see in this summarized diagram, we don't need to understand it all, but as it says here, an undifferentiated sex cell, like the gonad, I would say reproductive cell, differentiated into ovary and testis. This is just as a brief understanding. So Andre Luiz asked this question. How did the differentiation of sex begin in our evolutionary journey? He begins by talking about something that is yet to be studied. He begins, in the origins of the planetary organization, the spiritual principles brought in their constitution the condition that we can name content of force, expressing the qualities either predominating active or passive. So everything began at the very organization, the beginnings of the planet Earth. So the spiritual principles, remember when we talked about the celestial monads? Hmm? Inside their constitution, okay, there was some content of force. They had the qualities active and passive. Hold that information because as we advance, it's going to become clearer. Keep that information. We'll be back onto this. He continues by telling us that evolution is always sustained by superior intelligences in an ascended movement. Since the first moments of sexual reproduction have started, the formation of male and female organs that morphologically culminated in the genetic promises of men and women, today's men and women, begun under the directions of superior intelligences. Do you remember when we studied sex and spiritual body? It talked about the plant kingdom when that differentiation began. Remember when we showed the flower and the hermaphrodite flower, which is called the perfect flower, and then later the male and the female plant, right? So there, the first traces of it. But who boosted it? They're saying the superior intelligences. And this statement here, evolution is always sustained by superior intelligences, is one of the most important parts of this chapter. Why? Because often, like toddlers, kindergartners, teenagers, we still feel we are alone, by ourselves, we can do it all. And André Luiz, one of the main themes of the book Evolution into Worlds is to teach us about how we are never alone and how we are constantly being protected, guided, supervised by superior spirits. In this chapter, he reveals to us that evolution, and we will repeat it, evolution, he says, is always, he didn't say sometimes, he didn't say often, he said always sustained by superior intelligences in an ascendant movement, always pushing us to progress. And he says here that these spirits were directing this differentiation. What is the implication of this? This is a major implication that it matters if we are incarnated in the body of a man or of a woman. And I have to talk about something that is sensitive but needs to be addressed. Nowadays, there is a social movement trying to push this feeling that we do not need to define when the baby is just born. Let them choose. That is insane. It's contrary to the law of progress because it matters the body we were born in, the body of a man or the body of a woman. There is a reason why. We're not talking about sexual orientation. We're talking about sex, meaning the differentiation of sex. There is a reason why we were born in this body and not in that body. It matters. And in this chapter, our dear André Luiz reinforces to us that when the superior spirits under the guidance of God boosted this differentiation, it's for a purpose, acquisitions for the soul. Remember when we did the homework in the chapter on sex and the spiritual body, asking ourselves, what is the first thing in our reincarnation that we need to appreciate besides life itself? It's about accepting being the body of a man or the body of a woman. So if you ask, is it then a trial or an expiation when somebody is born in the body of a man? It doesn't feel like it. Or the reverse, yes, it's an expiation. It is. André Luiz says this. He said it already in a previous chapter. Cases of inversion. And those are expiation, trials, or missions, like Chico Xavier. Sounds controversial, but it's quite clear in this chapter that André Luiz is telling us that the superior forces, and I am repeating purposefully, so we reflect very deeply. There is a reason why we were born in the body of a woman or in the body of a man. Embracing that is a big part of our reincarnation. The garment we use matters. It matters. Matter matters. Matter matters. Right? Okay. Let's continue because we're going to add more information and go back to a few just to clarify. Okay? So let us see under Luiz here how he keeps on enlightening us. He says, however, we cannot forget that the evolutionary process in the physiological improvement of the earthly beings has not ended yet, proceeding as natural in time and space. As you can see in the picture over here, and if you're not watching it, there is a man with a pen, like a laser pen, drawing a body and an ascending arrow, showing to us that these spirits are still working in our physiological improvement. Throughout, we learned, the book we learned that our planet is also a laboratory for high spirits. They are not playing with us, but they are boosting our advancement by also causing possible mutations, exactly, and creating better opportunities for the human race. So this sentence here defines and brings a lot of hope. No wonder in the preface, André Luiz says, this book shall ignite the fire of our hope. Because sometimes, by looking at how it is today, we cannot see further down the line. I see many people who are like, oh my gosh, the world's gonna end. Global warming. Yes, we need to take action. But there is more to it than we can imagine. There is another superior world that is in charge of it all as well, and in greater charge than we are. Though our free will counts, they also have their free will. And in the sum of it all, the good always prevails. Good wins. Because in this universe, there's only one force that exists: love, the good from God. Everything else is the potential of its expansion. And we enter in the story as co-creators to expand the good, to keep like multiplying, co-creating, co-create. We don't need to create. We don't even know how to do it. But we co-create, co-create. When we don't co-create wisely, we suffer. So here he's telling, There is a lot yet to be understood. If you study in science, you're going to see that between being born in the body of a man and of a woman, there is a small percentage that may have both reproductive features. Sometimes not completed, but one of this, one of the other. It complicates, but that's minority, like exceptions. The rule is born as a male, a man, or a woman, male or female. That's biological. It depends on the anatomy, the physiology of it all. And the spirits are still working on its improvements. And what else does André Luiz says? He is now going to address when at some point this differentiation will no longer happen, when it won't matter anymore. He says, in regard to the laws of sexual characteristics, we are informed that it will occur spontaneously when the human souls have acquired all the necessary experiences for their own sublimation, heading after millennia of refinement towards the angelic status. Let me go one more back. No, I won't go back. I won't go forward. I will actually stop to discuss a little more this part of the. So we are talking about when it's differentiated and that it matters. It's a reflection for our reincarnation. Why am I in the body of a man or of a woman? What is this all about? Because there will be a point in which gradually and spontaneously, when we acquired all the necessary experiences for our own sublimation at the angelic status, we won't need it anymore. So how do we get there? We need to acquire experiences for our sublimation. Sublimation of what? The co-creative forces, which is the well-channeled creative forces. What does that mean? Sex. André Luiz defines sex as the creative forces of the soul. This is how he defines it. Sex is the creative force of the soul. That's how we are co-creator. The day we use it in a sublimated way for the general good and acquiring all the experiences that are needed to sublimate it and really use it in that direction, it will no longer matter for us. It has no meaning anymore being reincarnated and being reincarnated in the body of a man or a woman. That's why we know that in the angelic status, reincarnation is already no longer necessary. And that's why he continues by telling us more. The angelic status will retain all the noble qualities inherent to the masculinity and the femininity reflected in themselves in the advanced steps of perfection, the divine glory of the Creator. Pause. This is actually one of the few books in Spiritism that talks in greater details about the next stage of our evolution, which is the angelic status. Rarely we're gonna find in the Spiritist literature much emphasis on this, because André Luiz will explain at the end of this chapter. We cannot grasp what it is to be an angel because we can barely understand what it is to be real human. If you want to read more about real humanity, in this book, Living Spring, by Emmanuel. There is a chapter named Real Humanity. In this translation, unfortunately, it says royal humanity, but it's not royal, it's real humanity. Real. And real telling us, and I don't exactly know the number of the chapter here. Let me see if I can find it for your quick study. But Emmanuel tells us that Jesus came to teach us how to be humans. We're leaving the animal kingdom, still have a lot of animality in us, and we need to be really human. What is to be human? To acquire feminine and the masculine. This is quite a young psychoanalytic perspective here. The feminine and the masculine. Balanced. When we got it all, as André Luiz is saying here, then we will have achieved the next love. And that's why we need to reincarnate in the body of a man, the body of a woman. There's a purpose. Because we need to acquire particular experiences to boost the feminine and the masculine. We all have the feminine and the masculine. The masculine, features of the masculine: determination, objectivity, strength. I'm just saying a few. Feminine, compassion, care, nurturing. And now we see how many women are having problems because they are denying their femininity. Teresa Castro is saying, I saw a t-shirt that said humanity be both. Humankind be both. I love it. Human and kind. Beautiful. Human and kind. And that's what it is, right? Human, kind. The masculine, the feminine, right? And when you look at our guided model, he is the complete version of it all. Courageous, determined, but at the same time loving and compassionate. The mixture is unprecedented on earth. That's our guided model. So let us go back and continue. There's so much for us to break down, but I want to share with you that André Luiz ends this chapter by saying, therefore, it is imperative to recognize that in our evolutionary position, we cannot yet formulate any concrete thought about the nature and the attributes of the angels, nor judge about the relational system that they cultivate among themselves. That's how he ends the chapter. But now we'll go back, and I have spiritual permission to share with you a message that we received a few days ago at the Spiritual Society of Virginia by the Spirit Joana de Angelis. And I sent this message to Divaldo Franco, asking him to validate for us the very message. And he says it was Joana de Angelis herself. And I'll read it for you. She says, balancing the masculine and the feminine. Parents and educators, it is essential to focus on balancing the masculine and the feminine in your children. The masculine is still in vogue. However, since the advent of the Christ, the feminine has also become essential. Let us study the Christ of the earth as a model for the perfect balance of the feminine and the masculine. It is vital to promote the feminine in your children, the feminine of compassion, of benevolence, of charity, of kindness. Competition comes From the disequilibrium of the masculine, let us temper it with the feminine. This is the era of the feminine. Pay attention to the feminine, especially in those who were reborn in the body of women, where the feminine shall be strong and center stage. No wonder there are feminine disturbances like premenstrual disorders and others as symptoms of the devaluing of the sacred feminine. This is the time to believe and to invest on the force of the spirit and not the spirit of force. Let us study about the feminine and embrace it sooner than later. Let us teach our children, and we will avoid many future problems. Let us reflect on it. Let us study it. Let us work on it. This was a psychography that we received a few days ago, the Spirit Side of Virginia, reminding us of the importance of understanding exactly what André Luiz says. He's telling us that to achieve the next level, we need to go full force to the spectrum of the masculine and the feminine to achieve this perfect balance. So if we go back, only when we acquired all these experiences of the feminine and the masculine, we're going to be expanded enough that we'll no longer need the sex differentiation. So if we go back to the first slide, when he talks about the contents of force, we were created in a way to expand this active and passive contents. You haven't created it, neither have I. None of us have created it. It's God's creation, the feminine, the masculine. But we need the physiological experiences, the anatomical experiences, the biological experiences to go through it. So let us do our homework and ask ourselves, if you are in the body of a woman, what are the things you need to learn that only being the body of a woman you can do? First of all, being a mother. Oh, Vanessa, I cannot be a mother. Well, then adopt. Living a selfish life is always going to be troublesome. We cannot. We cannot live a selfish life just for ourselves. Read the law of reproduction in the Spirit's book by Kardec. It says, when you decide to live a life by yourself without caring for others, like creating a family, taking care of others, for real, it's a life of selfishness. And that's when we are never happy, never complete. Cannot be a mother, adopt, take care of people, of children, but in a daily basis, because as a mother, there is no break. And that's what we're talking about, renunciation. One of the highest feminine characteristics is renunciation, altruism. When we keep ourselves focused on ourselves, we're not fulfilling it. I'm not saying that those in the body of a man shouldn't do it because it's universal. We're spirits living on earth. But what are the things that only the experience in the body of a man can give to us? It's hard to tell, right? Because women nowadays can do everything. I'm joking, but at the same time, what is it? But men have a particular strength and endurance that even the muscles in the body have a particular strength and endurance that is differentiated. There are inevitable differences that shall be used to play a role for the benefit of all. We're not talking about gender roles. We're talking about potentialities that are given by the garment. I'll give you an example in an analogy. A car. I'm not an expert on cars, but if you, for example, if you have a car that is, not very speedy, right? And you want to drive long distance and you want to drive steadily at a certain speed, 1.00 type of car is not going to do it. You need a car that is like stronger. So the driver is the same, the car is different, you can do differently with different cars. It's like riding a horse, riding a bike. You can do different things that are equally useful, but differently according to the instrument that you have. Our bodies are instruments, and there is a reason why this instrument has certain potentialities and not others. Are we using them or not? And that's when we need to think if we are really taking the most of the garment we're using. For those who are already past being a mother, being a grandmother already, that's another thing. There is always something else that we can do using the special potentialities of the physical. The hormonal boost is different. Both the bodies of men and women have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. But usually the body of men have more testosterone than women, and women have more estrogen, progesterone than men. Why? We know in neuroscience that plays a role in our mood, that plays a role in our feelings, facilitating many things. So using it to the benefit of the acquisitions of the immortal spirit is wisdom. Unlike Jesus, we still need the bodies sexually different to boost the feminine and the masculine. And it's up to us to make that decision. Thank you, Leah. She brought it for us. Chapter 129 of the book Living Spring, talking about real humanity. When he says that Jesus is our example. He didn't come to teach us to be angels. Thank God, because we don't even know what it is. So when people say the bar is too high, according to Jesus' teachings, we're going to say, you know what? He's teaching us to be humans. He's not teaching us to be angels. So when he says love your enemy, he's not talking about a virtue of an angel. He's talking about an acquisition of the soul that can be achieved at human level. And if we think it's a far stretch, it's a sign that we're closer to the animal kingdom than the angelic kingdom. The more we can see and embrace easily the teachings of Jesus, we're getting closer and closer to the next stage. Knowing of it all, it makes it easier for us since we know what's coming next. So today, the good spirits are bringing to us through the book Evolution into Worlds the beautiful teaching of the acquisitions of the feminine and the masculine. And I will vote that this is the slide that probably summarizes it all as a goal for us. Okay? It says the angelic status will retain all the noble qualities inherent to masculinity and the femininity, reflected in themselves in the advanced steps of perfection, the divine glory of the Creator. So, when we wake up tomorrow or we continue our day to day, let us keep in mind, identify the masculine and the feminine, the experiences that we shall embrace. The more we embrace it without prejudices, because there are many people who avoid those experiences because they say, I am a man, I don't cry, I am tough. But then you're postponing. You're postponing your own advancement. You may be in the body of a man, but since the advent of the Christ, the sooner we acquire these potentialities of the soul, the sooner we're going to evolve, right? The faster we're going to evolve. So if I am in the body of a woman, it doesn't mean I cannot work. It doesn't mean I cannot, and I'm saying this not because we're in the United States, I'm saying because there are parts of the world in which women are told by their gender roles that they cannot provide for the family. That's the man's roles. But if it comes to a point where you're called to it, embrace it because the cultural differences, they will push us to acquiring it, whether in the body of a woman or the body of a man. That's the beauty of progress on earth, right? But we cannot lose sight that in spite of gender equality, there is still a reason why we're born in the body of a man or of a woman. The sooner we get it, the faster we evolve. Is that beautiful, friends? Yes? I hope you're feeling more inspired because this is a very deep chapter for us. And it's a chapter that is liberating and at the same time empowering us. The homework in the next 24 hours is to pay attention to the feminine and the masculine, that the experiences of the feminine and the masculine we still need to acquire to evolve. The sooner we realize it and work on it, the faster we're gonna get there. Whether it takes 100,000 years or 1,000,000 years, it's still up to us to evolve sooner or later. Okay, friends, a big hug of gratitude. And tomorrow we're gonna study another chapter on the book Evolution into Worlds. Our dear friend Marco Magalhães is gonna come to talk about miscarriages, and you're welcome to join us. A big hug, and may God bless us all.